Follow along, Catholic Pilgrims, as we follow French Doctor of the Church, St. Francis de Sales, through his book, Introduction to the Devout Life. Tune in as we read through this practical guide for living out the Catholic faith well. Hello, Catholic Pilgrims. Welcome back. Today is a super short reading, but a good one nonetheless. One of the things about being on social media that is extremely important to me is that I never sound different than how I really speak. I'm not a keep it real potty mouth, but I'm also not someone that sounds like a cheesy TV evangelist. If you were ever to talk to me in person, you'd find that my writing style aligns fairly well with the way I speak to people. I don't think you need to set a low bar in how you talk about God in order to appeal to the quote-unquote unchurched or younger generations. Plus, that's just not me. I also cannot stand when people act like they are always caught up in rapture with the way that they talk about God. It's disingenuous, even though it's meant to convey a deep faith life. And you know the people I'm talking about, the ones that speak breathily and have a praise Jesus after everything you say. St. Francis is going to talk to us today about conversations concerning God. How should we talk to others about God? Let's hear what he has to say as we open our books to chapter 26 of the third part. Chapter 26, Conversation, and first of conversation concerning God. Physicians are wont to judge of a man's state of health by examining his tongue, and our words are a faithful index to the state of our soul. The Savior himself has said, "By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned." Our hand is quickly raised to the spot where we are wounded, and our tongue turns as quickly to the subject we delight in. If, then, you have a hearty love of God, you will frequently speak of him with your family, your friends, and neighbors. For the mouth of the just shall meditate wisdom, and his tongue shall speak of judgment. The bee produces nothing but honey from its little proboscis, and your tongue will always be sweetened by his name, and will know no greater joy than to overflow with his praise and benediction. Thus it is told of St. Francis that when he spoke the holy name of the Lord, his mouth seemed to be filled with the sweetest of delicacies. But when you speak of God, remember of whom it is you speak, and let it be with reverence and devotion, not pompously or as it were preaching, but with the spirit of gentleness, charity, and humility, and as far as you can let your lips drop as the honeycomb, with the fragrance of devotion and heavenly things. Now into the ear of one, now another, silently beseeching God to grant that this heavenly dew may reach the hearts of those who hearken. But this holy work must be done softly and meekly, not as a matter of teaching, but naturally. For it is wonderful how gentleness and a prepossessing manner tend to attract and win the hearts of men. Never, then, talk of God or of holy things as a mere formal matter of conversation, but always with devotion and thought, avoiding a peculiar vanity which we find in some professors of religion, who at all times and seasons introduce sacred and fervent expressions as a matter of course and without thought, and then imagine that they themselves are what their words would indicate, which is far from being the case. I love talking about God and religion. If someone brings up those topics, I'm game. Let's talk. I also recognize, though, that not every conversation must be about God, religion, or morality. St. Francis says, quote, "If then you have a hearty love of God, you will frequently speak of him with your family, your friends, and neighbors," unquote. However, we don't want to make situations awkward. I knew an American woman in Turkey, and no matter what you were trying to discuss with her, she would bring up God in a very clunky and awkward way. I would be talking about grocery shopping in Turkey and how much fun it was to go to the markets, and she'd say something like, "Praise Jesus that we are Christians and know that we are fed by his word." Okay. Or I'd bring up a recent trip I took somewhere in Turkey, and she'd say, "Isn't it wonderful that we can travel with the Lord by our side?" Yes? Ugh. If this draws anyone in, I'd be shocked. I also have known people that speak only very formally of God, and it comes off as stiff and cold. You don't get a sense that there is a relationship between the person and God, but only an intellectual understanding of God. Just the other day, I had a guy show up who told me that he prefers the Episcopal Church because it is filled with higher intellectuals than the Roman Catholic Church. He went on to tell me that when I earned a doctorate in theology from the Roman Catholic Church, then come back to spar with him, as then it would be interesting. St. Francis says, quote, "Never then talk of God or of holy things as a mere formal matter of conversation, but always with devotion and thought, avoiding a peculiar vanity which we find in some professors of religion, who at all times and seasons introduce sacred and fervent expressions as a matter of course and without thought, and then imagine that they themselves are what their words would indicate, which is far from being the case." Unquote. Ugh, if that guy's way of talking about God draws anyone in, I'd be shocked. God should be on our hearts and minds all through the day, but let's speak about him with others in a manner that is warm, inviting, authentic, and thoughtful. So, that is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. Don't be cheesy and don't be stiff. Be someone that you would want to talk to about God. I'll see you back here soon. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.